Welcome to Walking Wandsworth on Wandsworth Radio. My name is Dom Dalston, and over the course of the next hour, I'll be keeping you company along some of my favourite Wandsworth walks. Let me be your guide, walking you in real time, pointing you towards places of interest that you might not know in Wandsworth and the surrounding areas. Walking is without doubt the best way to explore your local area. It gives you time to pause, get your bearings, take in your surroundings, and stay connected. It's also tremendously good exercise. As a rule of thumb, you burn 65 to 100 calories for every mile you walk. The Stroke Association says that a brisk 30-minute walk every day helps to prevent and control the high blood pressure that causes strokes, reducing the risk by up to 27%. You don't need any special equipment. It's a low-cost, great way to get around, and it's all very uplifting and good for the soul. Let's enjoy some of the hidden treasures that Wandsworth has to offer. Green spaces and secret meeting places, monuments celebrating the rich history of London and the people who made it what it is today. I do hope you'll be able to join me, and that together we'll be able to go walking Wandsworth. Hello there, you're listening to Walking Wandsworth on Wandsworth Radio. Wandsworth Radio's weekly walking show every Sunday at 8 p.m. My name is Dominic Dalston, and I'll be guiding you through our walk. I was accompanied, as I have been for all the walks I've done so far, by top walking companion Sheila, who provided a set of eagle eyes and vivid and evocative descriptions so that you, the listener, can build up a clear picture of what this walk is going to be like should you decide to tackle it for yourself. Walking Wandsworth has a website. You can reach us through www.walkingpod.com. It has links to previous episodes and contact details. You can also get the Walking Wandsworth podcast from there, so that you can take us with you. Let us talk the talk while you walk the walk. And remember that if you want to pass on some information, ask a question, or even request a walk while the show is on air, you can call us on 0207 622 3636. Tweet at Walk Wandsworth or email dom@wandsworthradio.com. The last walk we did involved a lot of walking along concrete paving stones with busy traffic nearby. This week, we decided to start in a green open space. Research from the University of Essex shows that green exercise has the ability to boost mood and self-esteem and reduce anger, confusion, depression and tension. Walking, running or cycling in a gym is great, but exercise outdoors in a green space is even better. Plus, you greatly increase the chances of meeting new and interesting people when you're out and about. Our walk today starts at Cannon Hill Common and includes a visit to the Paddock Allotments, where we meet Ruth Whitehead, a former Battersea resident and General Secretary of the Allotments Committee. We pass the site of Cannon Hill House and walk through the Joseph Hood Recreation Ground. We'll pass the Way Allotments, Merton Mansions, the Apostles, Wimbledon Chase, John and his Recreation Ground and Park, St Mary's Glebe Fields, and we finish at the War Memorial in the grounds of St Mary the Virgin Church Path. Right, let's get on with it. You join Sheila and I at the start of our walk near Cannon Hill Common. We've just arrived at the St James's Church bus stop, and we are going to walk a few hundred yards towards Cannon Hill Common, turning left at the roundabout and the petrol station. We got the 164 bus, and this was the quickest way for us to get there, but there are other routes available. Cannon Hill Common is really beautiful. It's a Sunday morning and all is quiet. There are geese and swans and other waterfowl on the lake. It's lovely. Thanks for bringing me here.
The lake is very lovely in the spring. They normally have lots of ducklings and things like that. You often see the heron there, and of course he does like to help himself to whatever's there. People fish here, but they need to have a permit. But it's really quite attractive. And in the summer, the butterflies on Cannon Hill Common are lovely. Lots of them.
We're walking through the woods where lots of trees. David Lloyd is on the right, and the playing fields. You could condense this walk, couldn't you? But we're going towards the Paddock Allotments because it's very interesting there, and we also want our breakfast, don't we?
That's true.
Rushed out.
Yes. A very nice breakfast. You have to be a member of the Paddock in order to buy breakfast there. But they're a really sociable, friendly lot.
Yes, they are.
It's a nice thing to do.
You don't need an allotment.
Oh, no. You can buy your garden requirements there, if you remember.
I think membership is well worth the money.
It is, and they're exceptional prices. Really, really good prices.
We've nearly arrived there, actually, so let's go in and have our breakfast. We're inside the paddock, and what we didn't know before we came here for breakfast is that today is the day of the AGM, and everybody who's a member has come, and it's going to take a while for a breakfast to arrive, isn't it?
Yes, it is, but it will eventually. Yes.
There's some familiar faces here.
Yes, yes.
And in a moment I'm going to go over and speak to Ruth Whitehead.
Yes.
And
she'll be very helpful.
She's going to tell us a little bit about the paddock. Hello, this is Ruth Whitehead. What do you do here? Would you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yes, as you say, my name's Ruth. I'm the General Secretary of the paddock. I have been involved with the committee almost from day one when I first joined, which is coming up for 18 years ago now. I'm also the tenancy officer, which means between myself and another tenant called John Archer, we oversee all the tenancies.
This is a very special horticultural society,
yes.
Very special set of allotments. I've seen your awards over there in the cabinet. What do you put the success of the paddock down to?
It's a community. It's not just a society, it's a community. We do look after each other. We do keep in touch with people if they leave because of ill health or bereavement or whatever. We do keep in touch with them. We always encourage them to come back. Anybody who leaves their plot through ill health or whatever, we give them their next year's membership free, just to keep them coming back. We hope so they keep in touch with us and we keep in touch with them. We're quite open. The committee always say if there's anything you would like done or anywhere you'd like to go, let us know, and if it's possible, we will try and arrange it.
How do people join up, and if they wanted an allotment, how would they go about getting it? Are there any vacant spots?
We haven't got any vacancies at the moment, but the waiting list is not really very long. Our allotments come in two sizes, what we call a half plot, which is the size of a back garden. And then you get a bigger plot. If you've got a small family or if you're just a couple, that's plenty to grow what you want. You don't have to be a plot holder. You can come and you can just join the society, and you're entitled to come and join in all our activities. We have quiz nights, we have bridge once a week, we have a hobby club on a Wednesday afternoon where people come. We've got the shop, which people can take advantage of our prices. There's just sort of two levels, if you like, membership. But you're not treated in two different ways.
How long has there been allotments on this site?
I believe the allotment site was set up in 1926. It became self-managed. It was the only one in Merton until about 8 years ago that was self-managed, and that's been going on now, coming up for 30 years. The clubhouse was flooded a year or so ago when we had a real deluge. It just came down the hill straight in the door.
This is also where the judging takes place for
the horticultural show, yes, in August, yes.
Yes, that's well worth coming along to see.
Yes, that's really good. It's traditionally a man's realm, the allotment, where the men used to go and hide away in their sheds or whatever. And so they had that camaraderie, and they also had that competitive bit. I can grow a bigger leek than you, and a bigger cabbage. So there used to be lots of giant vegetables. That seems to be diminishing. And some of the people who've had allotments a long time carry on with that, and that's fine. We're having more people doing cooking, because we have cooking and craft, and we have flowers, vegetables, photographic competition, children's competition. So those ones are taking over from the big vegetable ones.
Ruth, you have a connection to Wandsworth as well, because you used to live there. In the previous episode, we went to Vicarage Crescent, and you remember that when it was being renovated.
Oh, yes, we lived in Battersea High Street at the time. There's several blocks of flats, and they're in like courtyards, making a square U. And if you lived in any of those in the 40s and 50s, because they were built, I think, in the 30s, then you were really quite poor and you couldn't get credit or anything like that. And then when the right to buy came in and the renovators came in, or the developers came in, and they've done a good job, but the Battersea people have gone. So the whole ethos of Battersea that I knew and I grew up in has changed completely.
You used to live where we broadcast from.
I lived there for 3 years, but I grew up near Battersea Bridge, opposite Battersea Police Station, the Bridge Police Station, which is now Luxury Developments. We often used to go over the bridge to Chelsea, to the cinema, and to the old Chelsea Palace and Battersea Park. And we used to go to the police station to feed the horses, because there were stables round the back. And we regularly used to go around there and see the dray horses from Young's Brewery. Things have changed an awful lot.
You're listening to Walking Wandsworth on Wandsworth Radio. I'm Dominic Dalston, and I've just been talking to Ruth Whitehead about the Paddock Allotments and life in Wandsworth and Battersea. If you've got any recollections or memories to share, do call in and speak to Walking Wandsworth while we're on air from 8 to 9 p.m. Sundays on 0207 622 3636, or email me, dom@wandsworthradio.com. Sheila and I are just leaving the paddock, about to resume our walk.
We've enjoyed a very good breakfast, and we're now ready to walk again. We're going to walk back through the woods, and there's a lovely hollowed out tree. I'd love to know how old it is. I voted for it to be the favourite tree. A bit of a competition going on, but I don't know how it did. But it's supported now. It's extremely old and hollowed out, but it's beautiful. It's right by the lake.
There's a lot of amazing trees. There's a sort of marshy area, isn't there?
There is,
it's
yes.
Like, it's similar to the wetlands boardwalk, but there's no boardwalk, but it is a wetlands. I think every biodiverse space probably needs one, doesn't it?
Definitely. Yes. There's a lot of ivy around and other plants around the trees with berries. There's a nature reserve really now. If you walk away from the lake, up the slope, across the grass, and more trees. There's a burnt-out stub there. Unfortunately, somebody decided to burn the tree
Set
down
it on fire.
a long time ago, but they've left the big stump there. But you can walk through to where the house used to be.
Well, let's head in that direction then.
Yes. And now it's more of a nature reserve, but there was a big house there, and you could look down onto the lake.
Walking Wandsworth. Fascinating facts. The information board on the site of Cannon Hill House shows a painting of the northwest view of the house. It says, Cannon Hill House has been described as an impressive stuccoed mansion with surrounding parkland adjoining Cannon Hill Farm. James Edwards describes the house as follows. Half a mile south of the Kingston Road, adjoining Merton Common, is Cannon Hill. It is a white house situated on an eminence commanding a pleasant and extensive prospect to the east. On the west are suitable gardens, shrubberies, etc., and the soil is a stiff black clay. It was probably built with bricks made on the site in around 1773 for William Taylor, a military man who served many years in the 32nd Regiment and later became a Major General of the 14th Regiment between 1832 and 1865. It was lived in by Richard Thornton, who made his riches trading in the Baltic and who, when he died, left nearly £3 million, the greatest Victorian fortune, worth about £140 million today. After his death, the house was little used and in 1880 was described as being empty. It is likely that it was pulled down before the end of the century, though the buildings appear on maps in the 1930s. I'm loving these sparse trees that have been just growing in the middle of the vast open fields.
Yes.
All alone, solitary, before they come to the clumps of trees that are behind them. They're very stark. They look like woody thunderbolts is the best way I can describe them.
But you see, in a few weeks' time, they will all change. They'll have a different appearance. And in the summer, the blackberries here are amazing. We always used to come and pick the blackberries here.
Lots of felled trees that have come down.
Yes.
More of those berries. We can't quite identify what the plant is. But
well, it's similar to some sort of ivy. It grows all around the tree trunk. It hangs onto it.
It's like a parasitic.
Yes.
A bit like mistletoe.
Walking down across Cannon Hill Common, we come to Cannon Hill Lane. Now, we're going to cross over because there's no pavement on one side. It's quite dangerous. You need to be careful how you cross here. A little further down, it's safe to cross back again, and you can look over the bridge.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, do.
Well, I noticed along the side of Cannon Hill Common, they've chopped a lot of trunks of trees and laid them down the side. Why is that?
Well, we sometimes get travellers parking on Cannon Hill Common, so this inhibits them getting their stuff on there. They're not really encouraged.
Oh, I see.
That's all I'll say about that.
It looks quite interesting, really. Different.
Yes.
Information about Cannon Hill Common, I see.
Yes.
We've already come in through this bit because we've looped back on ourselves.
Yes, because we've looped
gone in a
back.
circle.
But it's quite a pretty bridge, and you can see the lake there.
There's a bus stop where somebody could get a bus directly to this point if they wanted.
Yes, you can. That's true.
This is a lovely plant that's outside. There's some berries on it.
Yes, they're very pretty pinks and whites, winter berry plants. There's a sort of a gutter, if you look over the wall of the bridge. Not a gutter, perhaps a drain. And I once saw ducklings trapped in there.
Oh, no.
It was very distressing, and the mother was going crazy around the edge and she couldn't get them out. But fortunately, somebody came along and managed to get down into it and rescue them. But they've now put a very strong cover over it, so it won't happen again.
I think we've spotted some Egyptian geese.
Yes, a pair. They like to stay together, those.
That's the second time, because we saw them at Mordenhall Park when we went out for our
They do like to stick together.
boardwalk walk, which is not far from here. We haven't got a very good picture of them, I'm afraid, because I didn't take my telephoto lens with me, but travel light sometimes. You mentioned earlier on the tree that you voted for,
yes.
And now we see that again, because
we do, but there's also a memorial tree there. Somebody has put something at Christmas
yes,
on another tree.
Don't know much about that.
No. If you go further along past the really old tree and turn right, you'll come into Joseph Hood playing fields.
It's got an interesting sound, hasn't it? And I can hear people having conversations and talking about family life and trying to sort things out.
Yes, that's right. It's very good, yes.
There's a paddling pool for children, but of course not much good now.
In May.
But
oddly enough, when my girls were little, they used to have the paddling pool right next to the lake, which was rather a dangerous place, I always thought. But it was moved into the playing fields.
It's a sad time we're living in because it shows you how careful everybody is, because it says on the information sign that adults are only allowed in the pool area if they are accompanying children.
Yes.
So there has to be a separation, I suppose.
That's true.
And you told me to be very careful taking pictures because...
Well, parents wouldn't want you taking pictures of them.
Fair enough. There's lots of nice gardens that border the Joseph Hood recreation grounds, aren't there?
Yes, there's a nice one here with chickens.
Yes.
Yes.
I like it. And a weeping willow.
Oh, that's coming into force again, the willow tree. It's turning green.
I like their architectural style.
Yes, they're like
grasses,
ferns, aren't they? Special ferns. That garden is always well looked after.
There's a bowling,
if we
there's
walk,
tennis and...
Yes, to the end, there's the bowling green, which they fought hard to keep.
It's a shame when councils... I mean, I don't want to have a dig at councils, but they seem to be knocking buildings down willy-nilly. You're listening to Walking Wandsworth on Wandsworth Radio. I'm Dominic Dalston and I'm with Sheila, looking back at a Sunday walk we did starting at Cannon Hill Common. As we walk, we're prompted to think about the importance of preserving our local heritage. We were lucky enough to bump into two friends of yours.
Yes.
Just a moment ago. We had to pause our recording, didn't we?
We did, but it was nice to see them.
They pointed out that so many things that the council does are not thought through properly. Like, you knock down one school, it was done for a good reason, but they didn't think through what was going to happen later on, and they had to build a new school to replace the one they knocked down.
Yes.
And there was a similar problem with the Merton Bowls Club, which we're now standing right outside.
Well, that was saved, fortunately, because it's very popular. People need these things, you know.
It's difficult for the councils to maintain them, but it costs money, but some things are worth it.
Absolutely.
These green spaces are absolutely worth it. You can get free tennis here, can't you?
Yes, and that is popular in the good weather. It's really fully booked as a rule. It's good.
A budding Tim Henman might come here, or
you don't know, do you?
Andy Murray for the future.
Yes.
It's not a million miles away from Wimbledon. Now, I think we're going to leave Joseph Hood Recreation Grounds, and we're going to head out back onto the main road again, Martin Way.
Yes,
and
Martin Way.
Head up maybe a couple of 100 yards, and you will see the Martin Way Allotments. Now, every summer, I think it is, or every spring, they have an open day, and you can go and have a look. And there's one particular set of allotments in there, which are owned by a German gentleman, and they're absolutely amazing.
They are different, and he's wonderful with plants. But I have to say, these allotments, there are allotments on both sides of the road. They're opposite each other, but the one you're talking about is behind Merton Mansions. But there are allotments on the other side of the road as well.
Oh, I've never been in there.
Yes.
I shouldn't wonder that Merton Mansions has a lot of history behind it as well.
Probably, I don't know, but they are. I've only ever known them as those flats, you know.
They're very nice, attractive looking, a bit cold and white maybe.
Yes, but they're quite smart.
It's similar to Duquesne Court in a way. That's what they remind me of.
Yes, very similar. Some of the houses in Wimbledon Chase, as we progress along to the Chase, are well maintained. Others are not so much.
Before we get there, there's something called the Apostles.
Yes, that's on the other side of the road, the Rains Park side of the road. The Apostles, those are very nice little roads.
Which are they? Why are they called the Apostles?
Well, I have never counted the roads, but it's probably the number of apostles.
So that's Chestnut Road, Bronson Road,
Carlton Park Gardens. Lots of them.
How interesting.
Yes. It's the number of roads that they are the apostles, yes.
Some of the houses are well maintained, as you'd expect, and some of them really aren't very well maintained.
True. I did mention, yes.
You told me, yeah.
But anyway, that area's the Chase. So
Wimbledon train station.
The station, yes.
You could get there from Wimbledon station, I suppose. We've never tried it.
Yes, and you can come from the city down to Wimbledon Chase, I believe, yes.
Walking Wandsworth. Fascinating facts.
According to a 2006 report by Matthew Pendleton, which can be found on the Apostles Residents Association's website, the Apostles are easily identifiable on maps as a dense area of development. The 12 roads are typically developed with single-family dwellings. The two-bedroom design that forms almost all the houses is the smallest family house available in the area. The Apostles area was known originally as the Bushy Mead Estate, and development commenced circa 1890. Houses in Chestnut Road, Bronson, Signey and DuPont roads had been started by 1901. Dorian Road was added in 1902. Vernon Road, formerly known as Savoy Road, Edna Road and Prince George's Avenue were underway in 1904. Ashton Road, Carlton Park Avenue had houses by 1905. Clifton Park Avenue began in 1906, and the final road, Gore Road, was under construction by 1907. Originally, most of the area was last used as a cricket ground, and recent building work on land behind Sydney and DuPont roads has revealed the presence of an early 20th century rubbish tip, which has yielded numerous bottles and stoneware items of Victorian and Edwardian date.
We're approaching the new nursing hospital. Just before that, there's another section of housing. It's called Library House. Those are new as well, apartments for senior citizens, I think, really. Lovely plants outside. One of them, Sarcococca, it's beautiful. The perfume's lovely. Very insignificant flower. You have to look hard to see it. A tiny little white flower with lots of green leaves. But when the breeze blows and the perfume's there at this time of year, it's really a winter plant.
It always gives me hope that spring's around the corner.
That's true.
It's such a lovely, sweet, summery,
It is. It's
springtime
beautiful.
smell.
Yes.
It gives me hope. There's lots of. It's nice that they've put flowers in these new
most
developments.
definitely.
Otherwise, this would be quite a.
As long as they're looked after they're planted,
Yes.
that's the thing.
And last week we were at Battersea Bridge and walking along by the roundabout. This is a completely different kind of walk, isn't it? It's green and lush, and it seemed, although we're doing quite a lot of mileage, it seems easier on the hook, doesn't it? I'm not saying that last week's walk wasn't as good as this one, because it was beautiful by the Thames.
Yes.
This is just so different because it's green.
That's very true.
The green spaces make a big difference.
We're passing the sports fields now. David Lloyd. Lots of exciting things in there. Bowling, swimming, etc.
There's a kind of graffiti, but it's interesting graffiti, isn't it? It's a lovely... It's a rabbit or something like that.
It's the first time I've seen that. That's quite new, I think, yes. Now, that's down the side of the Nelson Hospital, a pathway going down the side, which will lead you into another park.
Okay.
A sports field, really, at the back of the Rutledge School. It's really for the cricket and football.
Is that the John Innes Park and Recreation Room?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. But if you walk in there, you can turn left, and on days when the school isn't open or after school's finished, you can cut into this delightful little park that's
Oh, I
attached
see.
to it.
Yes. Sometimes we walk the dog.
We do.
You walk the dog
But it
there.
has to be sort of after 5 o'clock on school days, or... This is quite recent.
Why did they start closing it off?
They had their reasons, I don't know. But the safety of the students, really. But it's quite upsetting that you can't just walk through that gate. It's quite a walk all the way round to the front gate, but it's a lovely park to visit.
Hello, I'm Dominic Dalston, and you're listening to Walking Wandsworth on Wandsworth Radio, our weekly show dedicated to walking that airs every Sunday from 8 p.m. We're about halfway through our walk, now entering John Innes Park and Recreation Grounds. Well, as I was saying before, I originally found out about John Innes Park and Recreation Ground when I helped to walk the dog for Sheila, and he's a lovely chap, the dog. I haven't seen him for a while. The location's interesting because you've got these very old walls of John Innes Park, which go back to when it was first built, I suppose. And inside the walls, you've got a school complex, which is much more modern. And you have this very old gate, this wooden door, oak, I should imagine, with these large hasps in metal, and it looks like it's a miracle, actually. It's still standing. It's ancient, it looks. But there's this brick arch above it. And, as I say, it leads into a modern-looking school. There's a plant to the side of it, which Sheila doesn't quite know what it is, but it's going to come out in the summer and look beautiful. So, yes, we don't know what it is, do we, Sheila?
No, I'm not sure that I do.
But maybe if you come back again...
In a couple of weeks or so,
Yeah.
a month, yes.
Will it look nice? And now... we've reached this wonderful bandstand. In the background we can hear people playing tennis, because you can do that in John Innes Park. The bandstand is a beautiful old structure. Sheila has a particular penchant for bandstands, I must say.
I think they're most attractive.
I think they have music here in the summertime.
They occasionally do, yes. And people picnic. And, yes, I have been a couple of times, yes. It's nice.
The banisters, as you climb up the bandstand, you've got the ubiquitous pineapple,
Yeah.
which used to be a sign of great wealth
That's
and
right.
power. It was so valuable, a pineapple, you could rent it out, because affording to buy one, you'd have to be super rich.
Yes.
Inside, there's great acoustics, really lovely acoustics.
Yes, it's the whole thing. This area, it's like a square that the bandstand is standing in. surrounded by hedges and trees, and it's beautiful. This park is very good for its trees. They're lovely.
I love the weather vane on the top of the bandstand.
Yes, it's beautiful.
The trees, as you say, are amazing.
Yes.
Wonderful views when you go in there.
Now, I quite like the archway that's cut into the hedge. That's the exit to the next part of the park.
It's magical, isn't it?
It's
What's
sweet.
next?
Yes, you go through there, and what do you find? The pond.
Oh, yes.
A sweet little pond, which in the summer has water lilies, lovely water lilies on it, and it's so many frogs and goldfish in it.
I've seen it in the summer. I don't think it's looking quite its best now.
It's not looking good now, but it will do again. And we mustn't forget the mulberry tree.
Oh, yes. Well, we're coming on to that, but I noticed that the camellia is coming into bloom.
Yes, that's
Now,
right.
you know, at Pembroke Lodge,
Yes.
we saw a camellia. It was a different kind of camellia,
Yes,
wasn't it?
Yes.
And we had a little fascinating fact about that, which I had to be very careful how I worded in case any younger listeners were tuned in. Go back to that episode if you want to know, the Pembroke Lodge one. It's the first one we ever did. Sheila was with me when we walked it, but I had to do the narration afterwards because we didn't quite record it all in the way we should have done for a podcast. What's that? Is that heather, Sheila?
That's
or is
heather.
It's lovely, isn't it?
Yes.
Beautiful. Blue flowers.
Very pretty, purplish.
Purplish. You see, I'm colourblind, ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen. That's why it's wonderful to have Sheila here to be my eyes and see. I've got 20/20 vision. It's just I'm colourblind. This is the mulberry tree you were talking about.
Yes, very ancient and quite large. If you look through there, through the other trees, it's stretching out, and they've had to support it. That's the wild garden to encourage wildlife.
Yes. Must keep it clean and free of litter.
Yes, but if you go a little further round, you come to the rose walk.
Oh, yes.
That's very pretty in the summer.
It's a sort of semi-covered walk.
Yes.
It reminds me of the pagoda in Hampstead.
Really?
Yes, I know it's not Wandsworth, ladies and gentlemen, but it is a
Hampstead.
secret garden.
Oh,
And if we one day were to go straight, broaden our horizon slightly and go a bit further, I'd love to take you there.
right.
And yes, so there's a manor house behind the
Rose Arch.
the Rose Arch.
There is, yes. Well, it's the Manor House is part of the Rutlish School now, the big modern extension that goes to the back and down into Mostyn Road. It's a very large school.
I love the old walls. It looks like a smile in front of the house.
It does. But I believe that's the house that John Innes once lived in for a while, and this was all part of his estate. Oh, look, there's an insect hotel.
Now, I've done an insect hotel myself.
Yes.
Because I got the idea from another place we visited, Polesden Lacey, which is one of our... I think it's the second show we did.
Yes.
It was a Christmas show. Again, not really in Wandsworth. But do have a listen.
It's a branch out.
It's a wonderful Christmas show. And yes, that gave me the idea, and I put it on my mum's allotment.
Yes.
And I think we're going to do a show about my mum's allotment because she can't really look after it on her own anymore. So I'm going to have to take a week out from doing the show just when I sort out the allotment for her. And we're going to have to turn that into a Walking Wandsworth episode. But it'll be interesting because it connects into the Paddock Allotments that we were talking about earlier.
It does.
And there's some wonderful architecture in John Innes Park. I really like it. It's ancient, it's magical. It's like something through Alice in Wonderland. These wonderful scalloped kind of brickwork on the walls that might be used to put a vase in.
Yes, do you think it was a statue or something in there at one time?
It could be.
I don't know.
It's a beautiful space, and it really would be a shame if it got destroyed.
Yes.
I think there was something about it being left. He left a large amount in his trust, didn't he, John, in his trust?
He certainly did, yes.
And sometimes the terms of the trust are not always kept, are they?
That's the sad thing. But John Innes, I mean, everybody knows about John Innes compost and stuff like that. But he actually, they moved away. I can't quite remember where, because the business presumably was getting very large. But it was a family concern here.
Walking Wandsworth. Fascinating facts.
The The Merton Council website says that John Innes, who was born in 1829, was from a prosperous London family. He acquired a large amount of land in Merton, intending to develop housing with an easy rail link to the city. He played an active role in the life of Merton, with schools and local politics engaging his considerable talents. He was generous to his employees and neighbours, and children especially benefited from his parties and outings. The Masonic Hall and the Manor Club on Kingston Road and the Merton Boys Club had his active involvement. John Innes died in 1904 and was buried at St Mary the Virgin in Merton Park, where his tomb and memorial window can be seen. He didn't have any children, so he bequeathed the John Innes Park to the people of Merton, and his will also created the John Innes Horticultural Institute. This world-renowned research organisation developed the John Innes range of composts in the 1930s. It later moved from Merton to Hertfordshire and is now at Colney near Norwich.
We come to the Rockery, which I think has had a bit of TLC lately.
It's looking good.
They only have, I think they have a gardener occasionally, but they have volunteers, of course, like everywhere else. There's a little pond which the frogs like to hatch out into in the spring.
Yes, I think these little sort of water pools, stagnant water pools, are quite important.
They want all that cover, you see. They don't want it to be exposed. So you can walk right round there in a sort of circle. Lots of trees there.
And a Hebe again.
Oh, yes, good old Hebe. So many varieties with Hebes.
We haven't gone all the way round John Innes Park. We passed by the Rutlish School. You could make more out of it, but we went twice round Cannon Hill Common, so perhaps that's just as well. But it's lovely, and I'm going to say it's a great time of year to see it. If you come back in the summertime, it's going to be lovely all year round, really.
Can I just say that there's a lovely bowling green just past the Rockery.
Oh, yes.
It's a beautiful one. It's well maintained.
Look at that, yes.
And used.
It's called the Merton Park Bowling Club.
Yes, it's very well used and looked after. And can you smell that mahonia, the yellow plant?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. Now we're going to come round the side there and you'll find the archway, which is quite nice.
It is, yes.
That's a nice red brick archway.
It's nice. It's like an eyebrow.
Yes,
a unibrow.
Yes.
It's not a sad face. It's
But if you walked along that path, there's the Arts and Craft building, really.
Yes.
It's the loos.
That's right. But they're not open, ever.
Well, they are sometimes. They are.
Okay.
Especially in the summer, tennis players. There's lovely tennis courts there if you look through that gap.
They are, yes.
Just
1909, it says on the guttering on the Arts and Crafts building.
Yes, yeah.
The brickwork's quite remarkable. It's got that
isn't it?
herringbone style that we saw at Book House.
That's right. Yes.
When we went to the Battersea Arts Centre episode.
Yes.
I'll keep on talking about the previous episodes.
But they kind of link with the styles, you see. So that's the tennis courts.
There's a hole in that tree. I wonder who lives there.
Looks, well...
Maybe that squirrel we saw earlier.
Yes.
You thought it was a bunny rabbit.
They also have in this park, which is worth mentioning, a croquet lawn.
They do.
Which is very popular in the summer.
This garden's quite interesting. It's a house with pheasants in the front. Not real ones, but models. There's different coloured purple ones, are they, Sheila? That's quite a striped one. That's a good guess for a colourblind person.
Actually, yes.
And
blues and reds. I don't know. I'd have to take a second look at those.
Okay.
They probably just don't appeal to me. I don't know.
So this is a green flag. I can see. I know it's green because I think that's part of the scheme where they name parks as being members or winning prizes.
Green flag. Yes, that's true.
And there's a lovely little house.
Yes, that's right at the entrance of the Mostyn Road side of the park. Very pretty.
Friends of John Innes Park, if you want to join them and help them and volunteer to keep it going, keep it looking nice, or just to get news about what they're doing. Maybe you know quite a lot about that if your children went to the Rutlish School.
Possibly,
or they play rugby there, or
yes,
this wonderful old gate that you see when you leave.
Needs a bit of TLC, but it's lovely.
Hi there, this is Dominic Dolston and you're listening to Walking Wandsworth on Wandsworth Radio. It's a show dedicated to walking, and if you visit the walkingpod.com website, you'll be able to get all our previous shows, including maps showing the route we took. You will also be able to download our podcast to take with you so you can walk the walk while we talk the talk. Right, back to our walk. My walking companion Sheila and I have now reached Church Path.
We come to Church Path. You have to cross the road in order to get to Church Path, but it's very close by. There are some lovely old cottages there and St Mary's glebe fields at the back of the church.
Something we should mention about John Innes Park.
Oh, the holly. Yes, most important, the whole estate has got holly everywhere. The houses locally, in many of the roads locally, it's a conservation area. And holly, you just don't remove the holly.
I love the cottages, they're
Yes.
wonderful as we go up Church Path.
Yes, and as we go through the field by the car park, through the car park, you can go through the kissing gate.
Oh, it's lovely. When last year I was involved with the production of A Chorus of Disapproval, the Alan Ayckbourn play.
Yes.
We did our line read through, and there were a lot of lines in that play.
Yes.
In that field, the glebe fields,
Yes.
we went through the kissing gate. We put all our chairs out in the sun.
Very nice.
Oh, those were the days when it was warm enough just to be in a t-shirt.
Yes.
But we had a lot of lines to get through.
It'll come again.
It will. Well, we're doing a new production.
I know.
We're doing a new production. It's going to be about the First World War.
Yes, that's going to be very good.
It will. Do come along.
Yes. But if you cross the glebe field, or one of the glebe fields, you go through another gate and you're quite close to St Mary's Primary School.
That's right. And if we walk along there, we go down this little path,
Yes.
which is one of the walkways, and we're going to end up at, well, the church.
Yes.
St Mary's Church.
We're at the back end of it, so we need to walk through the cemetery. And there are some war graves in there. They've still got the poppies.
That's
in
right.
them.
It's not all the First World War, but that does tie in with the play
Yes.
that the parish players are going to do at St Mary's Church Hall.
So you can walk through that cemetery at the back. It's a small church cemetery, but there are lots of graves packed into there. Oh, and some of the spring flowers are coming up already. The crocuses are there, and snowdrops, which is quite encouraging now.
It is, gives me a lot of cheer, I must admit.
Yes.
One of the things we've got to do is get out there and enjoy a sunrise while it's still something you can do not too early in the morning.
Go on then. Right. Well, as we go along the side path there towards the church, there's the Priory Arch.
Walking Wandsworth. Fascinating facts.
To the west of the church is a Norman archway leading to the vicarage. Following the dissolution of the monasteries, it was used as part of the fabric of a house. Years later, when the house was demolished, the arch was preserved. A stone, chiselled with an inscription, has been set into one of the vicarage walls at the side of the arch. It says that the arch is the gateway of the Merton Priory guest house, dating circa 1175. It was discovered in 1914 and was restored and re-erected on this site in 1935. Merton Priory, founded as an Augustinian priory in the 12th century, is a site of great historical significance and is central to the history of Merton, seen by many as the forerunner for modern Parliament. Although little survives today of the priory, it existed for over 400 years and is now protected as a scheduled ancient monument. It has been extensively excavated, with the foundations to Merton Priory Chapter House preserved beneath Morantum Way.
This is a very important part of this particular walk. So much to know about this, and it's quite amazing.
Well, I remember when I first came to Wimbledon again, you showed me this.
Yes.
And it's got such an interesting history.
It has.
The way it was removed, right?
Yes.
Brick by brick.
We're very lucky to have it.
I hear music from the church, but we're not going to go inside today.
There's some sort of ceremony going on in there, I saw, as we went by.
The front is wood, carved ornate wood, and the archway is in the stone.
When
and
they
it's
have
got a shield.
weddings, Dominic, they have this archway decorated with flowers. It's quite beautiful.
Yes, they're gorgeous, aren't they?
Yes.
2 shields, I should have said.
Yes.
And you can see the other part of the graveyard. Oh, and
Now,
this is the William Rutledge,
yes, his tomb.
the tomb of William Rutledge. Don't miss it if you pass by. There's also a war memorial.
And there are steps outside the main gate of the church, which are associated with Lord Nelson.
Oh, right. Yes, I remember you telling me that. Nelson has a big connection with the area.
Oh, yes, he does indeed.
There's an Emma Hamilton pub.
Yes.
She was his
It's
mistress.
gone.
It's gone. Oh.
They knocked it down and put something
Now,
else.
look, people keep knocking stuff down, don't
Yes,
they?
they do, which is awful.
And they do it in...
But it wasn't a historic pub, but sadly Rose Cottage, which was on the Nelson estate, has just been demolished. I can't imagine why. It was a good connection to the Nelson estate. And just a small cottage which should have been saved and perhaps turned into a Nelson museum.
That would have been a great idea.
You know?
Why not? It's
gone.
Merton Hall, same thing.
We need these old places as well as new ones. It's terribly important to keep the history going. I'm quite sad, but somebody did say that they'd saved the steps that were inside Rose Cottage, the stairway, but I believe it's going to be shipped to America and installed in a museum there because somebody who moved into Rose Cottage or had a connection with it years and years ago, but I don't know any more than that, but they are willing to pay for it and have it there.
Well, at least somebody
Save it.
cares.
Well, yes, yeah.
We've more or less come to the end of our walk. I will just say that if you walk about 250 yards away from Church Path up Melrose Road, you'll see the Coach House, which has an open window display with lots of information about the John Innes Society. The play I mentioned earlier is the upcoming production for the Parish Players, a local drama group that performs and rehearses in the Church Hall of St Mary's that we passed on this walk. The play is called 100 Years On, and it marks the centenary of the end of the First World War. It will be performed between the 17th and 19th of May 2018, and yours truly will be acting in it. So book tickets now, while you can still get them. Thanks so much for listening. Remember, you'll be able to access a map with the route for the walk, along with photographs, as well as download the podcast version of this show by visiting walkingpod.com. I'll be back next week with my wonderful walking companion Sheila for another episode of Walking Wandsworth. So I hope you'll be joining me again from 8 p.m. next Sunday. All that remains to say is that Walking Wandsworth is a Dominic Dalston production, written, edited and presented by me, Dominic Dalston, for Wandsworth Radio. Please consult your physician before undertaking any exercise regime, employ good road sense at all times, and take appropriate safety precautions before embarking on any of the walks described in this show.
Well, as I was saying, we've been talking about the preservation of buildings on the show tonight, and we have Sarah Sharp on the phone. She's been campaigning hard to save Merton Hall. It was built by John Innes, and it has received Asset of Community Value by Merton Council. Unfortunately, it looks like most of its period features are going to be knocked down anyway. So, Sarah Sharp, are there any hopes of saving it?
I certainly hope so. I heard you earlier talking about Rose Cottage. It was actually me who saved the staircase and a few of the coving and a few beams and a few bricks. So I have nothing to do with America, and I don't know the person or anything to do with Rose Cottage.
Oh, well, thanks for setting us straight on that.
And it will be going to Canada, which is where the Peeney family or the Peeney Foundation is based. But that is part of my passion. I do want to save whatever we can in Wimbledon, in Merton Park, in Merton in general. So much of it is turned into rubble. Merton Hall is very, very special to a lot of people, and I am certainly going to try everything we can. I did take the council to court very briefly. It fell through because Historic England didn't list the building, sadly. It felt that it had some protection in it being locally listed. The council is going to only keep the facade, the whole hall, with all the plaster work that dates back to John Innes's time, and the Freemasons. It's all going to get knocked down. And I think the bit that hurts the most is that we are actually paying for the demolition of our own heritage. The council is going to transfer Elam Pentecostal Church, which is in Hyde Park, into Merton Hall because they need their site to build a school. There is another site available which we believe the church can go to, which is council-owned, and we are certainly working very hard to try and change Merton Council's opinion and hopefully keep that beautiful building intact, open to everybody and be inclusive to every single creed, gender, race, religion, as it has been for the last 118 years.
Now, did I read somewhere that if the Merton Hall is knocked down, then there'll only be one example left of John Innes' architect's work?
Not just one example of his public buildings. Right. That's two. Manor Club is right next door. It is privately owned. So, in effect, this is the only building left of John Innes' legacy that is in public hands at the minute, and that's going to completely go away. We won't have the freehold at all. Is
Merton Manor up for sale as well, the social club?
It is, yes.
So, what's going to happen? Is there going to be a public... Are you going to launch a bid to try and buy Merton Hall or the...
We would love to. What we're told by the council is it's not for sale. And when there is a notice for sale, which could come up in the next 5 years, after they've demolished, after they've done all the work to it, then perhaps we could get a chance to put a bid in. But us putting a bid in doesn't actually mean it will be accepted and will be brought back into public hands.
So all that's going to be knocked down?
It's going to be knocked down. Only the facade will be left.
Are there any records of the building? I mean, can we take photographs of it? Can we go inside and record it for posterity if it can't be saved?
That's what I'm trying to do now. I'm hoping the John Innes Society will carry on with that side of it. I've got lots of photos that I took whilst it was open, but they're not professional, and I do think we need to have a very good record of what is there before it's brought down. I've spoken to demolition groups, and they don't think they can save that beautiful plastered vaulted ceiling, which is the heart of the building. It is the heart of what Merton Hall was. It's where everybody gathered. So it's a real shame.
Well, perhaps we could discuss that on a future show, and maybe there's somebody who knows how to at least take plaster casts of what's there, so it could be replicated elsewhere. Thank you very much. I'm afraid we have to move on, but thank you so much, Sarah Sharp. We wish you all the very best with your campaign.
Thank you.
I just will say, to balance things out, that Merton is taking care to make the Merton Priory Chapter House more accessible, thanks to a partnership with the Heritage Lottery Fund as part of the Living Wandle Landscape Partnership. But it does sound like Sarah's got a difficult campaign ahead of her. We wish her all the very best.